This meeting is being recorded.
Right, so just a little, just to let you know that what we're talking about is that we started out talking about a $400 power bill, and what I've been saying is that the government writes bills for you, and every time that you agree to something, a bill is written in Parliament for you, and you are the one that has to pay that bill. And when the government department decides that they want to hire 10 more people at the electric company, or they want to hire 50 more people at the hospital, then they then write a bill for you. And that the reason why your power bill is going up so much is because they have created a false market of jobs, that they're bringing in thousands and thousands of people, and those people are guaranteed a job upon arrival. And if there's no job for them, then the government has failed in their duty of care for that person, because they brought them in when there was no job and no house. So they guaranteed them through the United Nations a job and a house. And what happens is, once they get the visa and once they get all their paperwork sorted out, the government is no longer responsible for them, and then they can be let go from that job, and they go and get other jobs, and then more people come in to those jobs. So they have created thousands of jobs to accept all these thousands of workers. Every time they create those jobs, the bill is to you, and then your power bill goes up, and the power bills are like $400, $500 a month. And what we were saying is that many of the government positions, if the human right, I want to talk about the 1990 Bill of Rights, as you know, that what we've been saying is that under the 1688 supremacist law, foreigners aren't allowed to govern over us. And why in Thailand foreigners aren't allowed to hold any government jobs at all? And what is the reason that foreigners aren't permitted to hold government jobs? The reason is that the bill is to the people of New Zealand that are born only, actually, the bill is only to people that are born to New Zealand of 2 New Zealand born parents. So you need 2 New Zealand born parents, and to be born to New Zealand yourself. And that's who all government bills go to, is those people. When a person is born to one foreign national and a New Zealand born parent, that child is a dual national. And that child is not responsible for the bills that are given to you by Parliament. That child, if the country gets itself into debt, that child can leave the country and go to Thailand that is not in debt, and they are no longer responsible for that bill. They just remove their New Zealand citizenship, and they take their foreign citizenship, and all that money that they spent over those 18 years, all that money that they spent of yours, they left the country and left you to foot the bill. So this is why foreigners are not allowed to be in our Parliament. Now, the 1993 electoral law said that, and so what we're noticing, as Maxine was just saying, is that Ngānia Mahuta, they've taken all of these resources and put it into the hands of single tribes, and they shove a Maori up front. They're shoving a Maori up front. But what we're saying is that this is only for the time being. And once the law is passed and it's established that this entity will not be in the hands of New Zealanders, they start putting in foreigners into all of those positions. So they're only putting you in as a proxy until the law is passed. And once the law is passed, they then fill it up with positions for all these foreigners that they need to provide jobs for and houses for. And the people that are footing the bill for all of this are you, the people that are born New Zealanders of New Zealand born parents. because those people can just up and leave at any time, that I've just explained it to you. Now, under our 1688 Bill of Rights, this is exactly the reason why we have this clause that no foreigners can govern over us in any of our government positions. But there's actually we visionaries in the Oreo group, we've got the vision, and mostly Kate Floss actually. I have, because of my experience living here in Thailand and being married to a Thai national who works in a government job, I have learned all about how they do things in their country and how they protect their country and the bills that are being given to their people. Because my electric bill here is $100 a month, and I don't pay any rates on my house. And that's because the government jobs are kept to a bare minimum of only people that are born to this country. And now, the 1990 Bill of Rights came in, and they created a law in there, and the laws from S1 down to S27 all belong to the United Nations, and S28 belongs to us as the owners of our Corporation of New Zealand. And all the bills go to us, and none of the bills go to the United Nations. And I have been the visionary to see where this is going, and we are attempting to stop it. Now, the United Nations is okay. All right. So that all of our tribes, starting from 1846 to 1843 mostly, there were Anglo tribes and there were New Zealand Maori tribes in Australia and in New Zealand. And we all got documents like this with names on it like this, and all the descendants of these people. Every single person was recorded by their birth certificate, okay? I should put these up, but anyway, what it says in here, this was done for a few Anglo people, and it was done for all of the New Zealand Maori. And it was all done for all of New Zealand, that the Queen's Law would govern over New Zealand. That was because of the supremacy law. Now, it said that it pleased Her Majesty to assent that the people on these schedules would not be under the alien laws. So it's not like, so we weren't under the alien laws. And then you got this Bills of Exchange Act here. And on this Bills of Exchange Act, it said any of these people that protested about laws that were repugnant to the Bills of Exchange in the 1688 could go to the courts. And I will just tell this again, that I've talked about it in the other videos, so I'm not going to talk about it. I'm only going to recap. So you have to watch the other videos. I did it already with Sharon. So an inland bill is a bill which is, on the face of it, purports to be drawn and payable within our country. And when it's drawn at the Parliament, and they say, we want to hire 7 more people at the district office to work with your council. And then when that gets signed into law in a bill, it's a bill, that is a bill that goes to Parliament, says we want 7 extra people on our council. And then that bill is approved by the Parliament. Once that bill is approved by Parliament, that bill then goes to you, and you have to pay it. All right? That's called an inland bill. And then it says any other bill is a foreign bill. If it's a foreign bill, sometimes you're not even responsible for the foreign bills. They go to the foreign countries, or I don't know about the foreign bills, but you're not really responsible for foreign bills. You're only responsible for the inland bills, unless there's been a bill made that you will be responsible for the foreign bill. So they have to make a bill to you that you will be responsible for this foreign bill. And what they've done to our Commonwealth countries is they have infused United Nations law all through every single one of your inland bills, so that you are responsible for everything that goes on in their bill that they made in the United Nations. This is how they're using our Commonwealth countries. Now, and so the United Nations has become greedy because they are hiring thousands and thousands of people there and giving hundreds and hundreds of people jobs there, and they're giving the bill to you in the Commonwealth countries. And all of the Asian countries have rejected them. They don't recognize it because they don't want the bill. Now, what they did is they had to create an inland bill, which was the 1990 Bill of Rights. And then they, when they created the 1990 Bill of Rights, everybody thought it was for New Zealanders, but it was only creating a bill for you, which was an inland bill. 3 years later, in 1993, they added on to Section 19. They added on to Section 19 the Human Rights Act. And on that Human Rights Act, they put on it in Section 5 KII that New Zealand would be bound to any international instrument. And then they added that onto there. And then what they've got there is justified limitations. And so it's got to go, and if you go and look at justified limitations, Section 345, one of those ones, it will say to you who, Section 3 will say to you who this bill applies to. And it says it only applies to the executive branch and public services. And what that means is that all public services have to recognize this Bill of Rights, and they are not permitted to discriminate against who they hire, right? And if they discriminate against who they hire, then the executive and the public becomes liable to those, to that law, right? And that bill then goes to you. Now, when that 1990 Bill of Rights was created, part of the condition that it was permitted to pass into Parliament was that there would be no remedy, there would be no pecuniary gain, that there would be no access for them to claim payment from you if one of those rights was not upheld, right? So that meant that it was quite a safe bill for you to have, because it was like, if the discrimination was not upheld for some particular reason, right, the government or us, we wouldn't have to pay for that. We also wouldn't have to pay for any international bills that they sent to us or international instruments. So it didn't seem, but you can see where they're going with this. Arthur Taylor, I just only received this information. So what had happened was, under S27 in the Declaration of Inconsistency, they did suddenly decide that you would be entitled to money if anything was not upheld in it. And under our 1688 Bill of Rights, we're not entitled to money. If under our 1688 Bill of Rights, if our right is not upheld, we only can go to the court and say that this right has been infringed upon and you have to fix it. And we're not entitled to any pecuniary gain, right? And so there became a conflict of interest because they've got their no discrimination law and for all government departments. But we've got our supremacy law that says foreigners aren't permitted to govern over us. And you can see here why foreigners aren't permitted to govern over us, because if we allow foreigners to govern over us, they get paid a government salary and they will make laws that are suitable to them. But when the bill comes in, the bill doesn't go to them. The bill for the payment of them only goes to the New Zealand born people of New Zealand born parents. So that's why we have that law. So we've got these conflicting laws. And this is what my whole case is about, is these conflicting laws. And so with my bills of exchange and my schedule here, it says here later on that my bill is payable on demand. And what the courts are trying to do is to stop the common law people from getting into the courts to make their demand. Because this demand can only be made by a declaration. So what they've done now is they're using S27 of the New Zealand Bill of Rights to say that they're a corporation and that the 1688 Bill of Rights common law people can't get in without a solicitor. And we can't afford solicitors. And so we're being blocked from protesting and getting our declaration to stop them from doing what they're doing, giving us bills that we don't want to pay for. So that's what they're blocking, is this demand that I'm trying to make, all right? So the instrument is payable on contingency, is not a bill. I'm not quite sure about that. All right, I'm not quite sure about that, so I won't go there. But what I will go to is at the end. So at the end of it, it says, every party whose signature appears on a bill is the prima facie and deemed to have become a party thereto of its value. So every single time that the New Zealand government passes a bill to you in regards to the 1990 Bill of Rights, you are the one that has to pay it, all right? And so every time the United Nations sends a bill through, since it goes through the 1990, that bill is then, and then since they have been to the court and gotten a declaration of inconsistency, and since they have been to the court and said that they can get monetary value anytime their rights are not upheld, then the government has to honour their bill, monetary bill, above honouring your 1688 legal constitutional bill. So the government is almost forced to stop us from using our constitutional bill, because by using it when it's repugnant to them, it was supposed to be when they are repugnant to us, they can't have it. But it's now become, if we are repugnant to them, we have to pay them to make up for our repugnancy. So they flipped it. And so the government, in doing that, to save us from paying the bill of money, they have to follow everything that the United Nations tells them to do. to be responsible to us and not force us to pay a bill that we don't want to pay. Do you see what I mean? So, and it says here, I am the party. So we are the party to that bill. And so the government wanting to protect us from having to pay all those bills is letting them have anything they want. So we are being held to ransom here, basically. And every holder of a bill is deemed to be the holder in due course. But it says, but if an action on a bill is admitted or proved that the acceptance or the issue or the subsequent negotiation of the bill is affected by fraud, by duress, or force, or fear, or illegality, the burden of proof is shifted. And until the holder proves that subsequent to the alleged fraud or illegality, the value has been given in good faith for the bill. So until we go to the court and challenge this, they can have free reign on all our resources, all our everything through that for all of the 350 million refugees that they've attached onto us until we stop this. And the government is basically held to ransom, because if they don't give them anything that they want, then we are now given a bill. And then if they do give them, and then we are given a bill, and then we are angry because we're being given all these bills that we have to pay. So Parliament has got themselves stuck between a rock and a hard place, in my opinion. It doesn't matter which way they turn, there's a loss to us as a people of New Zealand, unless we get our case through. So the I don't have it with me, but I should have it. So then I was just looking here, and I found this case that Maxine sent to me. Maxine sent to me, she just said to me, hey, this guy, Arthur Taylor, he's got all these hundreds and hundreds of, well, not hundreds, but he's got many, many cases in the court, and he's fighting for this 1990 Bill of Rights, and he's getting all these laws passed for this 1990 Bill of Rights. And we were thinking, well, how's he getting all these cases in the court? And I think I've discovered how. And so we can do the same thing. So what I went to
Lucky
look
you're over there, given where he has done a lot of his cases from.
all of his cases have come out of the prison, but you will think that he's a brain. I'm going to show you, Revelation is coming. We're on the yellow brick road and we found Brain. I found Brain, and I'm going to tell you all about who Brain is today. I freaking found his brain. So he's not the brain. Let me tell you that. He's only the, he's Dorothy. He's not even Dorothy. He's less than Dorothy. So you've got to find the brain. Once you've found the brain, you know where you're going, all right? So the road is full of deceptions, and the road is full of people trying to block us from finding the brain. And so I've got to get all excited here, but I've got to get focused, right? So I found this case. Now, this is the first time I'm going to be explaining this case. So I'm trying, this is why I'm doing this, so I can get to know the cases and I can get it in my memory what I'm talking about, all right? So everyone's going to have to excuse me in my my infancy, all right? So this is the first time I'm going to talk about this case. So I went to, where are you people? No. Right, I can go there. All right, so I went to the, put that over there. there, and then I'll put that up there. All right, so I went to I just happened, Maxine had said to me about this Arthur Taylor, and I thought, oh, you know, the court had given me this bill, and so far I'm not even got the Parliament come to the court, and I haven't read all of this. I've only read a wee bit, so sometimes I don't read all of them, but I've just only read a wee bit of it. But anyway, so far I'm into the court, and I'm $4,000 in, and I haven't even started yet, thinking, oh my gosh, this is just going to be so expensive for me. But luckily I found the brain today, so it might not be so expensive if the brain comes to help me. But anyway, I found this case. I just happened. It's very, very strange. He had five sections of cases in the courts, and for some reason I went to number 5, and then I scrolled down to number 5 at the last piece, and I just clicked it. It is click, click, click of Dorothy's Heels. I went click, click, click of Dorothy's Heels, and there it was. And I just kind of scrolling down. I didn't really think much, but so this case was called, so I was just kind of scrolling down and having a look here. And so this was on the 6th of December, 2010. Now, 2010 is when they changed the electoral rules, that the 3-year, if you were 3 years, more than 3 years in the prison, you weren't entitled to vote. But if you were less than 3 years, you were entitled to vote. And that fit with all the international laws. And suddenly, out of the blue, the government changed it, and they said if you were even in prison for 1 day, you weren't entitled to vote. And that came up against the 1990 right to vote under Section 12, and that violated the United Nations Human Rights Act, as you know, that they're the proxy coming through. And so the Arthur Taylor took that to court. They left it sitting there for 9 years, and Arthur Taylor took that to court in 2019, I think, and he won his case, and he got this declaration of inconsistency that Chris Farfoy had put the bill through. That's a bill through another bill to us. And so whenever I say this word bill, a bill from Parliament, that's a bill that's coming your way to you to pay. Whenever I say the Bill of Rights 1688, that's a bill from us to them, what they have to do. And our bill to them has been violated by the United Nations. So that's the fight that's going on here. So this case here was a workers' rights that was also had to do with Arthur Taylor. And this was also Mervyn Chapman. And that had the usual people. Might as well get to know your judges. LASCJ, McGrath J. LASCJ's gone. William Young J. He's gone and has made several rulings about all of this. Galt J. You'll see him a lot coming up in my cases. And you won't see Anderson J. And then you've got these are the appearances of the QCs, all right? And don't worry about them, but it's these judges that you want to be keeping a lookout. And so then it was very strange because I found, so they seem to do things in these here, as we're learning about law in our infant state. These here are called, oh, now I forgot the name of them. Bulk, I think they're called bulk. Oh dear, I can't believe I forgot that word. I did actually have it. Anyway, bulk packages, and they're done in 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. I'm assuming in my infancy that what it means is that they'll have the point here of number 5, and they'll have the question, and they'll have, I'm assuming that there are sometimes discussions during this, and it's those discussions that aren't put in. And I'm assuming that they only come back to the final answer that they arrive at, and it's this final final answer that gets put in after they've had discussions. I'm thinking in my Kate Floss pea brain. So, but it just does seem strange that they do it in 5, 10, 15. So what I had found on page, I haven't read all of this, but what I have found in page 16 was a piece that related to our case. Oh, I found it in 14 first, actually. Oh, I found this incredible piece, which is us down to a T. Have a listen to this. It says here, is it big enough for you? Ah, look, I can make it bigger. Ah, is that good for you to see?
Yes, it is.
All right. So it says here, funnily enough, and where am I going to say? And it is for this reason. So they're saying, it said that namely that we haven't had in this country a legal entity known as the state. And it is for this reason that in domestic proceedings, one cannot commence a statement of claim by alleging that the cause of action is against the first defendant. So our first defendant, so that's our first, well, we called them as a respondent, not as a defendant, only to answer to our questions of law, but only as a respondent. But they've said you cannot make a cause of action against the first defendant, that is the government of New Zealand or the state of New Zealand. And this comes down to this corporation thing that they're talking about. The state of New Zealand is run as a corporation. But when we're using our 1688 bill to them, then we come under the statute constitutional, all right? But as in regards to prosecuting them in regards to subordinate laws, we're not allowed to prosecute them. But in regards to declarational laws, they're not actually prosecuted. They're only called in as respondents as to the reason why you've asked for that declaration. And that's what I've asked them in. But it's never happened. It's only never happened in 47 years. So I guess everybody's gotten a bit rusty, or maybe they're just deliberately trying to block me from making my claim. So he says, if your honours had ever seen such a statement of claim while sitting in this high court, which they haven't, because they've always been blocked, but minus the first one that's actually gotten to go through in the common law, using the common law, because mine is only asking for a declaration. Mine is not challenging any of their subordinate laws. You would have immediately been dealing with an application to strike or adjourn or an invitation to the plaintiff, which is me, to go away and find the right defendant. And this is what they've said to me. They've said to me, you've got the wrong defendant. Go away and find the right defendant. And that's why they've struck me. And I'm saying to them, they aren't defendants. I've only called them in to question the Human Rights Act, Section 5 KII, and the prima facie bill that they've made to New Zealand of the 1990. And this bill, for everything to do with the United Nations, has been given to you as a bill of payment. And so I don't think they really quite know what I'm talking about. Do you know what I'm talking about? People?
I know what you're talking about, and it's obvious what you're talking about, and they need to go and learn how to answer to what you're talking about. They're the brains. They're the ones that did all the study. Now you've come back with our doc, and you've got a hell more documents than you did when we first went in. And now it's not our problem that they have to learn how to deal with that. What we're coming, our problem is that we're getting all this debt. Our taxes are going up because of people making decisions that are landing massive debt on New Zealand citizens, and we're taking in all of the world's what do you call them, refugees, and now it's not our problem that they don't understand how to answer that. It's their problem. We shouldn't even have to be here to do this. So,
But remember when we first went in, I said exactly that maybe they don't know the laws like how, and we understood it because we were with Kate, we understood it. What are they teaching our kids in university, law schools?
I'll tell you what they are. I'll tell you.
It's not the 1968, not 1668, 1688. It's the 1990 because they want that entrenched.
And not just that, they're teaching something called twale. And when I've been listening to this, it's third world.
Can you explain what the twale is, please?
Third world. It's basically you've got to go and listen to the things. It's third world. They're pushing it something wicked. Now I have to look it up. That's what they're teaching.
Just only want to break because we don't want to get distracted because I've got to go on this. We've got a long video ahead of us. We ain't done yet. So
that's what I.
Third world. It basically is a third world bill to the Commonwealth countries where they have made this fake Bill of Rights. We already have got our Bill of Rights is a bill to them, and they have made a fake Bill of Rights, which is a bill to you, and they've attached a foreign entity onto it. And so that's how they get through the Bill of Exchange. They've attached an international bill onto your inland bills. So bills that Parliament give you are called inland bills, and international bills aren't allowed to be put through it because you're responsible. But what they've done is this prima facie, where they've put an international bill attached onto the prima facie of your inland bill that they give to you, and you have to pay it until such time as you go to the court and say, I don't want to pay it anymore, but they're not permitting you in the court with your 1688 bill to them to get it done. And so that's how they've decided to get our Commonwealth countries to pay for all of their so-called third world countries. But as we said, just quickly, I'm just going to quickly say, but what we said in the last video is that those third world countries are filthy rich. They've got everything, but they don't give it to their poor people. They've said, never mind, the Western countries will take care of our poor people while we keep all our money and resources for ourselves. That's what they've been doing. And so they have to generate a certain amount of population of poor people to get this thing through to the West to force us to pay for it all. So they need misery to perpetuate all of this scam. It's a huge scam. So that's Sharon wanted to talk. Sorry, dear. So that is twale. Sharon, sorry, dear.
No, I didn't. I was just wanting to say that I think our uni students in law school are not being taught the 1688. They are being taught the 1990.
That is exactly what my meeting is about today. And when I get through showing this, I'm going to get to that bit, and Sharon's going to be able to exactly what Sharon has said. It's like my Oreo team are so in sync with me now. They're so in sync that I go and prepare something for a video, and my Oreo team is already talking about it before I've even presented it. And Sharon is so in sync with me that she does it every time, and she's done it again. It's like I've got this thing with Sharon. We've got this telepathy going on, I reckon, because she's always, I've had something prepared and I get on here and she's putting it up there before I've even put it up. And so that's what you've done again, Sharon. You know, I think we've got telepathy going on here.
You've got to also mention that there's no money in the 1688.
Yep,
That's
there
why.
is
that's
no-
right.
That's why it's a bill to them, because they can't pay you in money. This is why the system, because it's a bill to them because they can't pay you money. And why can't they pay you money? Because if they had to pay you money, you'd be paying yourselves. Do you understand?
Yes.
You give them your bill to them, and if they pay you in money, they have to write a bill to tell you that you have to pay for yourself. So you're just kicking yourself in the foot. So you give them a bill to say it's about a point of law, about one of their bills is repugnant to your bill, and that point of law needs to be changed to stop you having to pay this bill that they keep giving you. So you don't get more money.
The reason that all that is being ignored in the courts is because a lot of people are making massive amounts of money off the 1990. That's why it's going to be very difficult for us to get through, because you're going to cut their ties to money. That's what the 1990 represents for everybody, except for us taxpayers.
Do you want to say something, Diane?
Well, I was just going to say it's almost like the fraudulent banking system as well, the printing of money. It's the same scenario. That's basically the scam.
Yeah.
Printing money out of thin air. And then,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But
And
to
it doesn't
pay
even
all
have a
this
value.
debt we shouldn't be paying. We're paying all this debt
We're
that we
paying
should
for
not
it.
be paying.
Yeah.
All the Asian countries are not signed up to this law. None of them. They've removed it all from their countries. Tonga refuses to recognize the human rights law in any way, shape, or form. It's out of their country. All of the third world countries do not recognize this law except when it's their people that are getting benefit from it. And getting us to pay. The only people that are paying this bill, the whole United Nations is paid for by us. And I accept that the United Nations wants money. I accept that you do need some world governance, and I do accept that it's helpful, but I don't accept that we have to pay. I think that they've gotten greedy. They're asking for too much, and they're wanting too much money, and they need to downsize the whole thing, downsize it. None of the other countries are contributing. They all don't want to contribute. They're all saying our countries are fine. And
like you mentioned it the other day, you said we're taking all these refugees from other countries who some of them have some really good resources, and you said yourself they should be contributing to our country for looking after their people.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
They have to pay. All right. I would accept if the United States, right, say if the United Nations said, right, you're not taking these people, carrying these people, so we're going to take them and give them to the Commonwealth countries. But then they should say, you are going to pay for it, not them. You pay for it, and we're going to deduct this money from you. And they are able to do that. They should be doing that. This whole thing's got to be sorted out, and we intend to sort it out. But anyway, let's pay attention and get back to what I was doing. So yeah, we've gone off on a tangent again, ladies. But very good. conversation, but we've got a long way to go in this video. So then I did find this piece, and that is exactly what they've done. They've thrown me out, and because all the common law people, they're striking them out because they're saying that you can't take the government officials to the court. That's what they're saying. You're not allowed to do it because they're a corporation and you're not allowed to. And they won't let you in on the 1688, which that's the one that I'm trying to get through. I did get passed through the court clerk. First they let me in, and then they said, I think they saw the hornet's nest that I was going in, and they said, we don't want to go there. And so they've been blocking me. But fortunately for us, the appeals court said, we do want to go there. And so they let me in, but now they're trying to charge me money. I'm trying to get out of that at the moment. But I mean, if we have to pay, we have to pay. So that is what happened there. This is our case precisely. And then I went down to number, here that you'll see here on number 16. So I should show you the ones that I've got set here. So that actually came from, I'll just say, I don't want to have a conversation on this. I'm just going to tell you that it's there, where it all comes from. Right, so this one here is from Elias CJ, who's been quite instrumental in all of this. Elias CJ talks a lot about this. And then she says that it is, the Solicitor General says, it is a significant feature of British constitutional history that there has been a refusal. They refuse to recognise the state as a legal entity for domestic law, right? For domestic law purposes. And this point can be emphasised by taking you to the following authorities. Don't worry about that. So the common law of England doesn't recognise the domestic law as a legal entity. See, this is where you've got your problem, because the domestic law is where you have to pay all the money. It's bills to you. But the British constitutional law is a bill to them only on points of law that are repugnant. And so they only recognise that, and there's no monetary value in it for anyone. All right. So that's why, and could you imagine if the British Queen accepted the 1990 Bill of Rights, she would be responsible for all these bills, not you. And that's why she says, I'm not responsible because you made the bills. You own the country. You're the people of the country. You want self-governance. You said, yes, I'm going to pay this bill. You didn't call to me to stop this bill. And so therefore you've got to pay it. And Her Majesty says, I ain't paying it. All right. So that's why they don't recognise. But if we use our repugnancy and go and say, hey, Queen, that government is forcing us to pay for all these things, and we can show the repugnancy in the supremacy law, then the Queen can step in and stop them with the declaration. Do you see? Because we've called it.
Yeah.
And so that's why in our statute, constitutional law of our common law doesn't recognise the state's bills. All right? Yeah. Unless they're repugnant. If they're repugnant, we can go and call it, and that's what we're doing. So everybody understands that. So then, when we went to numbers, why have I got 8 there and 7 there? I've stapled it wrong. That is also in section 7, which another piece of section 7 says, from the Solicitor General. So this is a case, the kind of cases that Arthur Taylor's mixed up in, and these are the arguments that they're creating in the court. So we need to get into the court and they keep creating arguments that are in favour of that bill that they're giving us. We've got to get in with our arguments that are opposing that bill that they keep giving us, right? So it says here, what are legal entities? Are the branches that comprise of the state. And that is the consequence of the remarkable compromise which was struck in 1688, with contrast with the lack of compromise that occurred in the jurisdictions where the role of the sovereign was brought to a very abrupt end. What used to happen was that the king was responsible for all of the people, and he had to pay everything. And so he was running around the country just taking money from everybody, just forcing them to pay him money so that he could manage the country. And they said, the people kept complaining about the king and the Pope taking all of their money, because their money, they were wanting more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
So they said, we want to have our own parliament and we want to govern ourselves without the king. So the king said, this is what I'm going to do for you. He said, I'm going to keep these natural law rights here for you. This is the one that I'm going to manage. There's going to be no money involved. And he said, you're going to pay me a salary to manage that for you. And he gave that one bill. That was the one bill that was given to the parliament. And then he said, right, now the parliament, when you, the people, want something, you're going to stamp your feet and put those issues to the parliament, and the parliament is going to create a bill, and then the bill will go to you and you will pay the bill yourself. King said, I ain't paying it no more. And then you'll also pay me a salary to hold these natural rights high up above there. And if they do anything that's repugnant to that, then you can come. And one of those natural rights is that foreigners are not allowed to work in any of our government departments. They're not. And that is not discriminatory. We do that because when you're a dual citizen in our government departments, you're getting paid a very huge salary, which is creating debt for the people that are not dual citizens. And after the Mexican in Parliament has finished his 10 years in Parliament or whatever, he's going to pack his bags, go back to Mexico on a government pension paid by us for the rest of his life. And when our country is in debt, he is not going to be responsible for that debt, because he just renounces his New Zealand citizenship. He renounces his New Zealand citizenship, and the moment that he does that, he has relinquished himself of all debt to this country. And yet you're left holding the baby, still paying him. So this is what the king did. This is what it's all about, people. So that's why they did that. And so this is what we're going to complain about. Now, so I just already told you 14 of that. And then I came across, I've already told you 14, which was specifically our case, which said that they would tell you to bugger off, go away and find the right defendant. That's what they've done. But I had never called them in as defendants. I had called them in as respondents to answer to my questions of law, which is the 1990 and Section 5 of the Human Rights Act that did all of this damage to our country and gave us all these bills that we don't want to pay. So that's why I say that they shouldn't have struck me out, but I've got to fight that now. So then in 15, don't worry about 15, then in 16, there was an argument. Now, this was where the Auckland unemployed rights, Les Lambert is currently doing this, and they've got a 5 million starting point. The Auckland Unemployed Workers' Rights Centre, that is all paid for by us. And who are they defending? All of the people that are coming into our country sent in by the United Nations. That is a huge, huge bill that's coming our way. All right. And so this was what they're doing is, as we just talked about, shove a Maori up front. In this case, they're shoving a Pākehā up front. And what they need is Anglo-New Zealanders. In this case, they need the Anglo-New Zealanders. In this case, they need Anglo-New Zealanders going to the court using the unemployment workers' rights, and they're using the 1990 Bill of Rights to create bills to white New Zealanders. The white New Zealanders are numbering in the 3 million. And at this time, they want to create bills to white New Zealanders. And it's just like they've done exactly with the New Zealand Maori, is once they get these laws passed in the courts, then they will attach on all the immigrant workers that number in the 2 million. Now, when they're giving this bill to a white New Zealand born person, born of New Zealand born parents, this bill is going to them and they're paying the bill and they're responsible for that bill forevermore, right? So basically they're making a bill. You're making a bill for yourself. Every time that you make a bill that pays you money, you're actually making a bill for yourself and for your children and all of that. And your taxes will increase. Your taxes will increase to cover that bill that you've paid to yourself. All right. But what has happened with this Human Rights Act, where they get that attached on, once they get you doing that, paying this bill to you, all of the immigrant workers will then begin making cases for this. And what happens for them is that when they get this case passed and they get this compensation that they want, they can renounce their New Zealand citizenship at any time and leave the country, and you are left paying forevermore this bill that has been given to you to pay for them. And that's why in Thailand, they do have a workers' compensation that you pay into. It's called a provident fund. That's why foreigners aren't permitted to pay into it. We have to pay into a health fund, which we have to pay ourselves, or our employer has to pay a health fund for them that are separate from ACC. It's separate because ACC, I'm a recipient of ACC and I receive a 3-monthly stipend from the ACC, all right? But the people that are paying that, I'm a born New Zealander, so it's all a whole different thing. So it just comes down to that with these bills of rights, this workers' rights, immigrant rights, human rights, the whole lot of it is attached to that 1990. And you are creating hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of bills for yourself. So, and your taxes will increase accordingly. So Siri says that because this is the unemployment workers' rights versus Attorney General, so they shoved a white person up front to get this bill passed, and they got it passed. And so now you've got workers' rights, you've got immigrants' rights, you've got workers' rights, you've got disability rights, you've got children's rights, you've got women's rights. Every single one of these rights creates a bill to you, and every single one of those centres is a bill to you. That's why you're paying so much taxes. So it was better before, where you had volunteer centres. All these centres used to be volunteer centres. And when they were volunteers, many people went and worked for them for nothing. There was no bill to the people of New Zealand. And that's the way it should have stayed, because now they're taking the mickey. All right. So they're all given to the authority for the proposition that the Court of Appeal decided that the executive, which is Section 3, could be held, here, listen to this, the executive could be held liable for judicial breaches of the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act. And in particular, my friend says, that's Arthur Taylor, that Auckland Unemployment Workers Union probably understood the stance for that proposition. So I'm just going to have a quick discussion about what that means. It was this case in 2010 where the decision was made. The decision was made that the executive would be liable for monetary payments to anybody that was in that 1990 Bill of Rights, and it's become a ransom. This is where it's in this law where it's become a ransom, because now the executive is section 3, and it says this 1990 only applies to the executive branch, the judicial branch, and the public officers branches, right? And so you think it doesn't apply to you, but this bill, by the bills of exchange of an inland, it becomes an inland bill to you, and then it's got an international bill attached to your inland bill, and unless you call it out. So it was in, previously to that case, there was no monetary gain, because the original provision that this 1990 would be passed was that there would never be a remedy attached to it of money or any. It was only just there to get Parliament to think about these people's rights whilst they were visitors here in our country of New Zealand, and to try to give them some protections. It was never supposed to be a bill to the people of, a monetary bill to the people of New Zealand, but that is what they've changed it into through these court cases. All right, so that is where it occurred. And then so basically that was what I was talking about to you before, that the government is now in a dilemma. If they uphold our common law bill to them, then they are in breach of the 1990 bill. But when they don't follow the 1990 bill, then it is a monetary bill to us, and it's also in breach of our common law bill to them. So this is the dilemma that they're in. And I don't think that they know the way out, to be honest. The only way out is to remove that 1990 Bill of Rights. It's got
Well,
to be
other
gone.
countries did. Other
All the
countries
other
removed the
countries removed it.
1990.
Yes.
Other countries removed Nexus Lexus. Other countries removed all the shit that we are grabbing onto and people are making money off us on.
Yes.
Why can't they do that?
They can do it. They don't want to do it. Because there's too much money for them. But you all should remember that you're all paying for it, and you're not going to be allowed to get any of those government jobs. None of you.
I wouldn't want
And
one.
all those people that get those government jobs are just going to, once they've finished their government job, they will relinquish their New Zealand citizenship, leave the country on their government benefits, and leave you holding the bill.
The way I see it at the moment is that all these big groups that are coming out rallying supposedly for the people, running, so they want to run to Parliament to be the next government, and they're rallying for the people. I think that they must know this stuff. They know what they're going for. They're going to click their ticket as well. It's just, who do you?
Controlled
Well,
opposition.
I'll just say this quickly. Sorry, Diana, excuse me. Those sneaky Americans and those sneaky Canadians have both written themselves their own bills in their country that said they're not beholden to any of the United Nations bills. So they have written Tonga's written themselves protections. Samoa has put themselves under America on both sides. All those Pacific countries have put themselves under those American protections. They're trying to put us under America on their deck inalienable, but leave us with this 1990 bill of all these payments. They're taking the piss out of you. I'm sorry to say it, but they are attacking you. You're under attack. I'm sorry to say this to you.
So, I mean, I don't see it as a people. I see it as we're just in the middle. Like, you know, I could get caught up in looking at it as a race thing. I don't. So you have a document. So the government, if we push on, if we can get through and get in there, they're going to have to make a decision, and that's all we want. This is our job here. It isn't about. This is our job to push that, to take this into the court, forcing them to make a decision. This is the whole point of this whole exercise.
Exactly. We want to force them to make a decision. And instead of digging us deeper into the hole that they dug us, they might as well admit the mistake and dig us out of the hole while we can still do it. Okay, Diane wants to say something.
Oh, no, it's okay. But
I know she did.
it's 1990. Why, if other countries have done this and gone through the process of kicking them out, you know, wiping that 1990 and having that clean slate, I mean, what has been the ramifications of doing that? You know, I mean, that's a battle. I mean, I just see this as a minefield. Like, you know, the cogs in the wheel have just been going and turning since 1990, haven't they? As they add more on and more on. How do we get rid of it, you know?
Well, this is where we can use our Tikanga Law Society. Because what happened in Thailand is that once Butterworths was bought out from England, the law company was bought out. Most countries aren't capable of writing their own laws. They don't have the skill. It takes highly skilled people who are extremely trained in it, generation after generation, and they are extremely well paid. And the American Nexus Lexus took over in 1973. And what all these countries have had to do is to write their own laws. But on the positive side of it, and they've all been struggling with that, because you've got to pay. And part of the Nexus Lexus, I think, is, I'm not sure, but I think there are some things in there where you have to use because America, they would have written it like that, because, you know, they just would have. But I just do notice that in Thailand, they had to rewrite all their laws by themselves, and you're not allowed to plagiarize. But on the positive side of that, we've actually got the Tikanga Law Society. And if we could get the Tikanga Law Society, because they've been telling them to write everything only in Maori, which is deceptive. If we could use the Tikanga Law Society to write our laws in English
as well, yeah.
And keep our 1688 and do all our laws in English, we could still use the Nexus Lexus for certain things, but we could also have our own laws of our own country, and we wouldn't be so dependent on them. So that would be a huge issue if we could get that, but they'd have to do it in English. There's no way you can write laws in Maori. But
No.
you know, when they
Well, being a multi-nation,
it can be done in both.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't see why we can't do that. We've got an entire Tikanga Law Society. We can just change it to be a New Zealand Law Society. I don't see why we can't. And the whole thing is done. It's all set up. It just needs to be tweaked. They know how to write the laws down there. Throw in a few Anglo people that have got a British heritage, a bit of university training in the Cambridge, throw them into the Tikanga Law Society, because we're supposed to be partners anyway. Can't hear you, Maxine.
Half of that Tikanga Society have got, they're half Anglo, the majority of them. It's like, but why them? Why can't our judicial? Why can't our government do so? Well, not our government, our judiciary. Why can't it just be them? Is this to do with the race thing and the Indigenous thing? Is that why you keep going back to the Tikanga Law Society?
Yeah.
Because in all
I
reality,
don't
I
want to go into
wouldn't
that
trust
all.
any of them.
No, I don't totally want to get sidetracked into this because we've got a long way to go, but this is a point that we need to be talking about. All right, so let's leave that there. Diane, did you want to say anything?
No, that's what, yeah,
No.
what.
We'll leave that bit there, but that's something that we want to be talking about. Let's push on ahead. We've got a lot to do. So that's where this dilemma, so you can see it right here in this law that they've done here, all right? So let's push on. So that was on 16 where it was in this decision in the Bajan and Auckland Unemployed Workers Union provided the authority for the proposition that the Court of Appeal decided that the executive could be held liable for judicial breaches of the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act. And that actually got appealed by the Attorney General, I think using Arthur Taylor, and it actually went to the Supreme Court. When it got to the Supreme Court, the Declaration of Inconsistency was approved in the Supreme Court, and then this here came to pass, and then it was Chris Farfoy that pushed that bill to go through to the Parliament to be passed as a bill in Parliament. That was when I jumped in and started fighting about this. When I knew about that Chris Farfoy, that was when I first started. That only just happened last year. And so that's when I got in and I could see, I had a vision of where all this was going. And I just said no. And Chris Farfoy, no offense to him, just doing his job, but he was unqualified for a start, because how did he get to be the Minister of Justice when he was a newspaper reporter? And so he was the press secretary, morphed into the Minister of Justice of New Zealand to see these bills come to fruition against the people of New Zealand, when he's a Tongan, not even born in New Zealand, a Tokoloian, not even born to New Zealand, of New Zealand parents, and he had no law degree. He was a press secretary. So that was my complaint about him. And he stepped down now, but that is not the point, because this is exactly what I say to you. He was the one that was instrumental in pushing this bill, a bill to you, through. And what has he done? He has stepped down. All he has to do is relinquish his New Zealand citizenship and go and spend his life on freaking Tokelau, and he's not responsible for any of it. And he's left you holding the bill. That's why I'm angry, because you've got the bill, not him. So he had no right to make it, because that's why the law in the 1688 bill to them, supremacy, is that dual citizens and foreigners are not permitted in our government jobs, because they write bills to you that you're responsible for, and then they jump the country. They jump the waka. Oh, so I have to calm down. So he said that he submitted in the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal accepted that the proposition, and therefore naturally enough continues to make that submission. However, he said, with respect, a careful reading of the judgment leads to the conclusion that regardless of what counsel in the Auckland Unemployed Union thought he was seeking, the judges who decided that case, here's what he said: they clearly did not understand that their judgments were authorizing a New Zealand Bill of Rights damages claim against the Attorney General for New Zealand Bill of Rights breaches by a member of the judiciary. Now, what you've got to look here that a lot of people don't see. Here's the deception. You see up here where he talks about New Zealand Bill of Rights Act. That's talking about the 1990 on the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act, where they had made a decision that you would be responsible for monetary gain, right? But here's where they're talking about, suddenly they switch and they start talking about the New Zealand Bill of Rights, which is our bill to them. And then he said, the union, regardless of what they thought that they were seeking under the New Zealand Bill of Rights, in fact, it was the judges who decided that case clearly, clearly didn't understand that their judgments were authorizing a New Zealand Bill of Rights damage claim against the Attorney General for New Zealand Bill of Rights breaches by a member of the judiciary. Now, it's quite hard to understand, but it's pretty well much how I see it, along the lines of that they've made this bill to you, which is repugnant with your bill to them. That's what they've done. And somewhere they have to fix this, this monster that they've created. And that is exactly what I was just told you. I'll just say it one more time. The problem for them now is if they don't uphold that Bill of Rights 1990, they get a bill from all of those rights workers, a monetary bill. And that bill is sent to you. But if they uphold your 1688 statutory, which is a bill to them, then they're in violation to that Bill of Rights. It's in a web of, it doesn't matter which way they turn, they're in violation both ways. And how they fix it. So that's, he pointed it out right there. And that was pointed out by the Solicitor General. So that's what he's saying. And then that case went on, but I'm saying I disapprove. So then in section 20.
Can I just say something?
Yes, dear.
So the Solicitor General is giving their, and they're not a judge, and if you have a look, again, the Solicitor General that gave that was is another import as such, you know. So possibly, but then you've got someone giving a statement to our judicial body that have the experience to know what they're doing, hence, and then you made the distinction between the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act and the New Zealand Bill of Rights. So should that not have fixed it as such?
No, it didn't. What it ended up happening in the end is the whole so I haven't read all of this, and I don't even know what the outcome is. I've only read the first 20 pages. There's 150 pages to read. No, I don't know if I want to read that many, but I've just found these few pieces. And then this case went to the Supreme Court, that I said to you that it went to the Supreme Court, and it was won in the Supreme Court. So whatever was talked about in here, this is what they're doing. And then when it went to the Supreme Court, it was won, and they got their declaration of inconsistency, and Chris Farfoy sent the bill. So whatever was talking about in here is kind of irrelevant to the whole situation. But there were many warnings in here about what was going on, and the judiciary has chosen to ignore all of that. Crown law has chosen to ignore all of it, and Parliament has chosen to ignore all of it, because none of them seem to want to actually, they don't mind, as you can see here, that they don't seem to mind using the two bills of rights in conjunction with each other. Because the fact of the matter is that the 1990 Bill of Rights can't actually function without our common law right. I'll say our common law right. It can't actually function without our common law right. So they need them, but none of them seem to want, particularly Crown and the Solicitor General, don't appear to want to actually begin a case. Nobody wants to actually begin a case like we have done, where we actually are shoving the common law right up front against this law here. They just seem to be shoving this law here, this subordinate law, up front, and then using the common law to prop it up. And then whenever there's a challenge between the two of it, they seem to glide over that and ignore it as they please. So, what you were saying, Maxine, is that it didn't really matter what happened in here because of the Supreme Court ruling that came later. So is that suitable to your question?
That's clear, and it sort of gives us a very good window to see where we're heading and what we're up against. That's all I can
I didn't quite understand. I have to be honest, I didn't quite exactly understand what your question was, so I faked my way through it. Did I do a good fake? Did it look good?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to have to do that in the court. They're going to ask me questions, and I'm going to have no idea what they're talking about.
It showed me that I need to go through and read these cases. I mean, I normally do, but I didn't know that one, and that's how I know. That's how you get your answers. You actually got to go and do the work.
The main one that you need to know is the Declaration of Inconsistency bill that was put through by Arthur Taylor. It was won by Arthur Taylor, which was very surprising, and he won it on the prisoners thing that was created in 2010. And this here was also created in 2010. It seems to me that in 2010, they created a whole bunch of laws, knowing that they were all going to be going through the courts in this time to get done what they wanted to get done. But the main one was that Declaration of Inconsistency, which started with my letter to Chris Barfoy in opposition. That's what my whole thing. All right, so we better get on to this. So I faked my way through that question, but I think I did pretty well. So I'm going to have to be able to do that. That's a skill that you need to have. But I really didn't understand your question, Maxine. Sorry, dear. But all right. Everyone can smile a wee bit. Don't forget to smile, because people like to see us smile. They want to see happy people. They don't want to see doom and gloom. They want to see happiness. Happy. We're on the yellow brick road and we're going places. Right. Now, so I've got this croaky voice, haven't I? Everyone says got this croaky voice. I'll have to gargle. Well, that can all right, get a better voice now. Not really. All right. So you could see that it came down to section 20, and on section 20 in another case, you see all these cases they're taken through the court. I'm suspicious. The claims, where did it go? Down to the Solicitor General again, and he said that the Auckland Unemployed Workers Union goes not further than Bajan, and I believe I'm entitled to make the submission that if the court in the Auckland Unemployed Workers Union had been taking the radical step of reinstating an action against the Attorney General for judicial breaches of the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act, then it would have plainly said so, and the court didn't take that step because the court believed it was concerned with New Zealand Bill of Rights breaches by the police. You always have to look at what they're using. Do you see how they're using these two to
Yeah.
prop up? And that is
Sneaky.
it's deceptive, it's mischievous. It's a mischievous way of using us to get us to pay for hundreds of bills in monetary terms against a bill that has no monetary terms to us. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the deception that's going on here. I'm not still, as you all know, I'm only just silly old Kate Floss, and I'm not good at expressing myself, but I'm trying my best here. And so everybody's just going to have to put up with my strange way of expressing.
No, that was crystal clear.
Is it crystal clear? So this is
Crystal
what
clear.
they're doing. What they do first, what they've got to do first is they've got to shove in anything where they want ethnic rights, Pacifica rights, disabled rights, children's rights. They shove a Maori up front for all of those. They need one of us they're manipulating our people, and that's why they've got our people turned against each other.
Yeah.
They've had us hating on the Maori for the longest time because they've been shoving a Maori up front. And every time they give a New Zealand Maori any of these organisations, they then also give it to all these other organisations as well. They shove the Maori up front first, and then they get it in a small scale for the New Zealand Maori, because there's only 200,000 New Zealand Maori. They get it for them, then they tag on Maori and Pacifica, which adds on around about another 800 to 900,000 people. Then they tag onto them and ethnic. And then it becomes millions and millions of dollars. But the original bill, monetary bill that they got you to pay was through a New Zealand Maori, and they've got you all hating them. And they were just a pawn in this game. But when they're doing all these workers' rights, they need it on a broader scale for more people and more money for the United Nations, because they can get a great deal more money here for the United Nations and their scam. And so they're shoving white people up front for this. But here they've pulled a bit of a swifty to make the white people look like they're the shining stars. Because what they've done with you is they've created this workers' rights union, and you'll think, oh, this is great because we've got this 1990 and nobody's realizing that you're creating a whole bunch of bills for your people. But you'd even think to yourself, well, I don't really mind that, because that's okay, because I've got to get some things for my, for our people. But then what they attached onto that is immigrants' rights, human rights, lawyers, advocates for the 1990. Then you've got to pay for they need a lawyer in each of their nationality that you've got to pay for. They've got to have everything translated into 8 languages. You pay for all of that. And so that workers' rights that you thought was just for your little workers' rights has actually got hundreds of millions of dollars in extra spending that you have to do to bring in the people that they reckon that they want to do these jobs. So
Maybe
yeah,
we need to have the 1990 abolished and start again.
So our, originally all our unions were done through the places where we worked, and it was our places where they worked that had to pay for it, and we all volunteered, because I remember being in the union, and you never got paid. You were a volunteer. But they had a small stipend, and the workplace would organise. But now they've taken all of that out of voluntary work, away from our community, and it's all paid. And then it's all billed, you see. So in this case, they're shoving the white man. now I've gone a little bit longer, right? And I wanted to end this video, but I'm coming to the place where, Sharon, I wanted to tell you that we're now back in the yellow brick road and we found the brain, because we've been raking our brains, me and Maxine, and saying, you know, this is way out of our depth. We have no idea what we're talking about. We can read these little cases, but as you go and read them, you realize that you have to write things in a certain way and you need to know your stuff. And we've said and usually these things are done, something as serious as what we're talking about, done by an extremely qualified lawyers that have got not some experience, that have got decades of experience in this kind of thing, that have been educated in Cambridge law, American law, international law, domestic law. They have decades upon decades of experience. Of course, we certainly don't have that. We just don't have time for it.
We do now.
I have found the brain, because we're going to have time. Our Oreo group's got time. We're good. Come hell or high water, if we can't find a brain, we're it. I'm just going to say that to the court. I'm going to say nobody else has taken this through, and we're it, and you just have to deal with it. And I'm just going to tell them, if I have to, I really don't want to pay the $7,000, but if I have to, I will. But I'm going to really try not to, because now we've got to battle that. Now we've got, how many battles have we got on? We've got the original claim, which is a battle. Then we've got the strikeout, which we're battling. And then they've thrown at us that they don't want to give us the fee waiver. Now we've got to battle that. So those are the three things that we're all battling at the moment. And it's getting harder and harder. It's getting harder and harder. But as you can see from what I've read, that the forces in Oz are sending us everything that we need. So we've got to hold on now. But as Sharon was saying to me, so now we're going to get to the fun bit, because we always should end with something happy. Now we're going to get to the fun bit. And as Sharon was saying, what are the universities teaching the children? And I'm going to show you all about what the universities are teaching the children, okay? So I'm going to go to this one. So I decided this morning that this was way out of my head, and I thought to myself, what am I going to do? So I started clicking on, and I thought, I'm going to find someone that's going to take us on. And then I went to so I thought, yay, Auckland University, because I found this preacher guy who I found some things in constitutional law, and he'd written about it. And so I thought, oh, he'd be good. And I thought that he'd worked at the Auckland University. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to call up this Auckland University, and I'm going to ask them if they've got anybody down there that would like to work with our Oreo team. And Kate Floss, it would have to be Kate Floss in the Oreo team. So if they wanted to work with Kate Floss in the Oreo team. And I went to this, and then what did I find? I found study with us, research on campus about us, news and events, giving money. And I'm not going to click on all of these, but when I went and looked at the pictures, everything seemed to be that they were targeted towards international. I could see by the pictures. I only looked at the pictures, and I looked at, these are the people that are coming into our law society that are going to be teaching law in our country, governing law in our country. We've got the prerequisite man, woman. We've got the all of the ethnic identities shown up there. We've got, you know, we get one little, perhaps a New Zealander mixed with all. I'm not against these people coming to learn law. The fact of the matter is, they're learning, we're paying for them to learn law, to use the year 1990 to make us pay bills to them.
Yeah. And they shouldn't be using 1990 to teach anybody. They should be using the Supreme Court.
Yeah, they should not be. And they don't even want to know about our Supreme Law. And so I looked at this, and what you'll notice about this is there's no telephone number. You can't even call them. There's no, yeah. Well, you can only go and call them if you're enrolling with them. And then they've got Maori law, Pacifica law, which, you know, the Pacific Islands have got their own. They've got Pacific, they've got PILSA, Pacific Island law students, and they've got Pacific Epidemic support. The Maori have got the Maori academic program, the Tachua, and the undergraduate. They don't even teach our New Zealand Maori how to take care of their country. They teach our New Zealand Maori only to take care of their small areas. And this is a damage to the New Zealand Maori, because New Zealand Maori, this country belongs to you. I'm telling you, this country is your country. And if you don't know how to manage your own country, you know what? All these other groups here are going to do it for you, and they're not going to be working for you. So then when I looked at their research, here's the research that they're doing. Bioengineering, they've got business school, arts school, they've got, I don't know, this is the areas of research. The research is only in business, art, some education, social work. There's not a lot. And then when we looked at the on campus, we've got Maori life on campus and Pacific life on campus, and nothing for the rest of New Zealanders. We're paying for all this. And and then when they tag onto that, it's tagged on, the international community is tagged onto you too. Do you see that there? So this is the law society that you've got. When I went to the, and here's the Asia Pacific. So this is where they bring in Asia and all of that. And our New Zealand Maori are like a tiny little dot in amongst all of this. You're just a very small part of it. And then when I went to contact us, I did try to call these numbers, but they don't answer the phone. So you can't even speak to anyone. I tried to contact them. And so if you're a common law person, I'm telling you right now, if you're a common law person and you want to fight for the protections of your corporation of New Zealand that you own, and you don't want to be paying all these bills anymore to all these people that you don't even know that are going to pack up and leave your country left to foot the bill. I mean, it's no different. It's no different when your friend comes and says to you, hey, can you sign this guarantee for this motorbike that you want to buy? I want to buy. And this person says, don't worry, I'm going to pay all this back, and I'm going to do all this work for you, and I'm going to do all these things, but please sign it because I can't get the credit, because I can't pay that myself. But if you sign it as a guarantee, I promise I'll pay it. And then after you sign it, they pay it for a year. They pay it for 2 years. And then they turn around and they say, oops, I'm leaving the country. And you're left standing there with the signed name, paying the freaking bill. And you're like, oh, but I only signed it, but I wasn't the one that used it. I never used the motorbike. Why am I paying for a motorbike that I never used? That person went and sold the motorbike behind your back. They sold it, they took the money, they left the country, and they gave you the freaking bill. And you said, but I never used that motorbike. They said, we don't care. Your name is the signatory. He's left the country. You own a house. You own this property. You own all these resources. We're going to take these resources, this amount of your resource as payment for that motorbike. It's no different from that. I just had this experience with my poor. So this is the University of Auckland, and you don't want to go there. Now I had this very experience. I'll just go off on one little bit of a tangent that I tell you not to, but I had this very experience with my husband. My husband had a good government job, and they were his daughter's friends and his daughter were constantly asking him to sign as a guarantor to these loans. One of them was a student loan. My husband would come and ask me, and I would say, get out of here. We ain't signing it. My husband's got a serious head injury, and he was made a ward of the court to me. I was made his caretaker, and he's not allowed to sign anything without me signing it, his signature. All right. And but at that time, I already had that court order, but he owned a property that he had gotten before I got the court order and before we were married, from his first wife that died. So he owned that property. His daughter got him to sign a student loan for her friend based on that house. The student had 15 years to pay the loan and never paid a single penny on the loan. They got a letter saying to her and to them that they hid from me, they've hidden it from me, that she had, they put a payment plan for her to pay only 800 baht. So they got a payment plan. She paid about $30 a month. She was on a payment plan by the school to pay it at $30 a month over a 5-year period or something. And she did not uphold that payment plan that they had set for her, even though she had a job. She just didn't even pay it. And then at the final issue, they went my husband for his house, to take his house. Now the loan was only, the house is valued at about $1 million baht.
Wow.
The loan was only, but the loan was only 100,000 baht. But in order to get the 100,000 baht, they would have sold his house, and then there would have been fees for selling the house, fees to the university, fees for the lawyers and all of that, and they would have sucked up that $1 million baht very quickly. So the only option for us was to pay the 100,000 baht for her. Now, that deal was made. That house, I couldn't get him out of that because my power over him only applied to the things that we owned together since we were married. So even though my husband lives with his mum down on the banana farm and I live in our house, I still keep control. This is like the Queen. I'm no different to the Queen. I keep control of everything for him, and I make sure that he doesn't make mistakes. But he has anything that he wants to do in regards to property, loans, anything like that, he comes through me. I'm his 1688 Bill of Rights. He comes through me. But anything that he wants to do independently and all of that, that doesn't include major issues, then he can just go and do that on his own and spend his money. I give him money. He's got a trust, and I give him money out of his trust and as he needs it, and he can ask me. So this is all what you've got going with the Queen. The Queen doesn't own, I don't own his property, but I couldn't do it with that property because that was pre. All right. So anything pre, you've got no control over. And this is the same thing you've got going on with the Queen. And any time that you do anything outside of the Queen, as a people of New Zealand, you're 90 times out of 100 times, it's going to be deceptive if they don't want to go through the Queen's law. The only reason they want to go through the Queen's law is because they know that at some point they're going to screw you over, just like she did. They told my husband, don't tell your wife, because they all knew that I was going to be the blocker. All right, so that's what they're doing to you. But We're on, yes, Sharon?
I just wanted to pick up on what you were saying about Māori getting everything that they've been wanting. Māori and everything that they've been wanting and have gotten. You've only got it for a little while, people. When United Nations come in, it's all gone. Why can you Māoris not see that? I saw it a long time ago. I put it out on my post. You've only got it for a short time. So for me, really, enjoy it while you have it, because you won't have it anymore.
And I'll say the same thing to the Anglo people. I'll say exactly the same thing. They call them Pākehā in New Zealand. You Pākehā that are going and making all these bills that are being sent to Parliament, you are making hundreds and hundreds of bills through the workers' rights. Enjoy it while it lasts. Because at the end of the day, your taxes are going to go up and up and up. And all the people attached to these bills are going to split the country and leave you with holding the bill. And you know, and this is not going, everything that you're doing is going to your children and your children's children. That's for the Pākehā.
Yeah.
So we've got Sharon's getting on the Maori and I'm getting on the Pākehā.
But that's for both. In the future, I can see all those immigrants gone, our land's being trashed, Māori don't own anything. They'll be putting Māori on a reservation. They're going to have a little piece of land for those little bits of Māori people and call it a reservation for so-called Māori refugees. And this is all on you people that keep getting all the shiny stuff, wanting this, wanting that, tagging all the refugees onto us. This is the future you're setting up for our kids, and we're saying no. Hate us or love us, we're going back to the Queen to stop all of that. You Māoris can carry on doing what you fellas are doing, but our group and whoever comes with us is going to stop it.
And it's not that far away.
It's not.
It's not that far away.
It's not far away, Max. All these Māori trusts and everything our parents worked for is all going to be gone. Like bloody hell it will.
Very, you see me joking around, but to be honest, this is no joke. This is extremely serious situation that our country is in, and we've got to bring all the wakas together. We have to stand as a country and start thinking about what's best for our country, and stop thinking about what's best for our little square of land. What's best for our country, and we have to realise that we are under attack. It's very serious. Jodie wants to say something, dear. No, she doesn't.
I was just pushing up my glasses.
Oh, all right. So we're going to go to, we're going to go to the surprise. Finish every lesson with a surprise. So as I was searching around, I was thinking, oh my God, the court's just going to have to put up with Kate Floss and the Oreo team because there's nobody to help us. But as I was searching, I found what we're looking for. And it is actually, have a look here. I found the Otago law team. Do you know how all our cases are marked CLO? Because our cases are good test cases to go to the court. And the Otago law, look what it says here for us. For us, it says free legal advice and free legal education and resources and staff. And I clicked on staff and it said that, here's what it says. Our office employs 6 lawyers and 1 legal education worker and 2 administrative staffs. We also have a group of over 100 senior law student volunteers and volunteer lawyers who help out at our daily advice sessions with casework and with our legal education program. So these are law students that are wanting to complete their degrees. They're looking for theses that are going to give them fame. They're looking for cases that they're going to want to work on. And if they think that our case is a shiny new case, they'll get together and do it as a group and debate about it and learn from it. And our case is exactly that.
So who's going to ring them?
I'm far ahead of you. I've had the email off. Yeah, I'm not waiting for you. I've called them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can we be very careful?
Yeah, wait for that. Don't be a Debbie Downer. Wait for we get through the fun. Maxine with your Debbie Downer.
No, you've gotta watch your back, watch your front, watch your side, watch the other side. I'm telling you.
We're not ready for that. Wait for that. No,
I'm not dealing with the outfall if you go all thing because you've been done.
We will. Wait till I tell the good bits first, Maxine. All right, good bits first, and then Maxine's. Maxine's my Morpheus, and she's always telling me, giving me the cautionary tales. So I always have to listen to her. But before I do, I want to tell the shiny bits first. Then we have to listen to Maxine. So wait till I tell the shiny bits first. All right. So so they have these people come to meet over the holidays. They have clinics that operate 3 or 4 times a week. And this is why Arthur Taylor spends all his time down in Dunedin. He's down there doing this. That's why he's down there. He's got a little shack that he set up down there, and he's down there and he's working with these people. And he has had his day in court. It's our turn. Depending on the number of volunteers available, the clinics have volunteer lawyers. 7 out of the 100 selected law students are working as volunteers at any given time. And they help you. They go out to the rural areas and they help in the local community. They do 3 weeks on Tuesday morning. Once every 3 weeks, they go to the Citizens Advice. They go to they're on roster. And this is all the work that they do. And listen, community law. This is why, do you see our cases? They keep putting on our cases CLO. That's because it's being sent to these people, and they are the people that are working with us. And this is what CLO means. I didn't know what CLO meant, but it means Community Law Otago. And they have been watching our case and waiting for us. So all we've got to do is reach out. And that's what we need to do. And they work with the Maori community as well. So it's not race-based, it's for us. It's for us, New Zealand. This is for the New Zealand people. It's for us, not that Auckland University that's for them. This one's for us. They work with the Maori community and they work with our lovely Anglo community as well. So they're working for all of us. And they give us planning, developing education programs. They have an annual report. They get money through the New Zealand Bank, which is from the corporation that we own. So that's where their money's coming from us. And that's why they give us this time, because they're working for us. They get money from the Lawyers Trust accounts, and which helps to buffer, and they get a top up from the government in 2020 budget, gave them a top up. And so the more that we use them for our New Zealand services of our 1688, the more money that they will get, because they're seen as a need for the community. So this is where we need to be. Yeah.
They're going to get a big buffer soon.
Yeah, they're the core group of volunteer lawyers and students. and they're in relationships with the Otago community. The Otago community is of paramount importance. And they've even got a Germanic centre, which when I tell them my Germanic law, that's going to include their Germanic centre that works in the law of the Germanic people. So it's going to be amazing. Now that is who they are. And then I went to the contact and look at all the things that they have for us to contact with them. I have called them and left them my number, but there's a website. You can email them, which I've already emailed my name. Oh, I didn't quite put my name. Your name, address, telephone number, and you can email them and you can tell them what all your problems are. They do, and you'll see, do you see the difference here? They all use Government New Zealand, Government New Zealand, and Government New Zealand, which is very different from the Auckland. Now, just to all you people out there that have got your ideas to get, I'll just tell you, I'll put it back up in a minute. All of you that have got your ideas of flooding them with frivolous cases, don't do it, because we're going to need these people to fight for our country. We want important cases that are going to help us with what we're doing. So there's going to be a lot of common law people that are going to see this and latch onto it. What you've got to do is, which I'm not opposed to you doing that, but what you've got to do is try and, if you do like me and us and the Oreo team, if you already have your case set up correctly to how you want it, right? And you've already done all your own filing in the court and you've managed to do the groundwork, I think that they would take your case on as a case study. But if you're just calling them up for your own little things that you want to do in your house, you can certainly do that, and you should do that because they're available for that, but they probably wouldn't take you on as a case study. The one that they'll take you on as a, just a question that you're allowed to call them and make an appointment and get a question, okay? But you have to be careful because these 1990s are taking up their time. And so just be careful that you all don't get greedy. I think, everybody should allocate themselves one case that's important to them and then try and create something from that like I have done. And, don't just get lazy and let them do it all for you. I intend to be extremely involved in what I'm doing, and I'm not intending to, push comes to shove, listen to me. The time has come where you have to go back to the 16th century and learn how to do all of this yourself again. So Maxine was saying, trust no one. You can't trust anyone. And what you've got to do is go back and learn how to do all this yourself. And if you allow yourself to become dependent on the Law Society, on the Otago Law Society, you're doing yourself a disservice. You've got to learn how to manage it on your own, like we are, all right? So I'm just telling the common law people that. So don't take more than you should. So the next thing that we're going to go to is that, so I'll put it back up for you. But the next thing that we're going to go to is that they gave us a phone number and they've given us the address that you could write to them and tell them about your case. And if you're very, very lucky, they will take it on as a case study. If they take it on as a case study, then you're going to be having a lot of help. So that is what you're trying to get, is that your case is brought in as a case study. They've got all the resources. These are the resources that they use, and you can see it. They only use the government resources. So this is the government university. Auckland University has become a private university. This is the government university. and then they use all government resources. And this is the book that Maxine sent, Community Law Aotearoa, which I'm a bit against that because they put Aotearoa on it, and that makes me nervous there. So that's going to be hard to use since we'll be going up against this name later. So, but anyway, this book here, they want it to be in the universities, and we've quoted from this book, and we'll be quoting.
Oh,
from,
no, that's not the book.
Is this not the book?
No, that's
Yeah,
not
I
that book.
thought our one had New Zealand on it, didn't it?
Yeah, it's called Challenge to Change Judging in Aotearoa in New Zealand is ours. That's not the book.
Oh, this is in that actually because it says.
Just be
community
aware,
law.
anything that has Aotearoa on it, or anything that blinkers at you that's UN based, that ticks all the boxes, is getting funding from. In order to get funding, to be out there, to think, you have to tick those boxes in those things, and anything like that, to get funding. And I mean, if you have to play the game, fair enough, you play the game, but I'm just saying, just be very aware, because you can't get money now without playing that game of ticking those boxes.
So that could be a bit of a mix up at the university then as well. So, I mean, they'd be getting funding from UN for using Aotearoa.
No, I just looked at it because you have to read what it says. It says Community Law Aotearoa, and this has gone on to the Maori side, because the Maori, remember, many of them have jumped ship and jumped into the UN as refugees, and they come under that Aotearoa community, which is not our New Zealand community. It's very, very different.
But
a lot of them have been deceptively led into them, they didn't realise.
Just also be aware that Otago is where those doctors that were meant to have all the, I mean, go back to the you know what, and think about all those experts that were giving all the advice about the you know what. The majority of them came out of Otago. So it's like that, that's what I'm saying. Just be very careful. And,
yeah,
and Kate, I don't think you really see how much that no one could take your case and explain it in a court like you. No one knows your case like you. No, they won't know. All those supposed experts, just because they have a degree, and I'll tell you this for a fact, means nothing. They only know where they work. There's no way. No one knows 1688 like you. Nobody. No one could take your case in front of a judge. You probably know more than a judge does. They only know how to block you.
I can't. I'm out of my depth.
You don't need help. We've got everything. We've got everything. You've got everything.
I'm not going to do it. I can't. I need help. You have to. I don't see any harm with having some meetings with them. As I've said, that I certainly will not give it to them. I ain't giving it to no one. I'm hands-on. Anything that they want to write is going to be checked by me. I'm saying to them, I'm going to be, if they do contact me, I'm saying to them, I want to work with the common law people as if we didn't have a lawyer. I want to show that we can do it with a little bit of help, but not having it taken away from us. We don't want you to take this away from us.
Then I can only tell you to hold some stuff back, because I can see if they are working to take this away, to get rid of this, they will, and I noticed with NZLII, just some of the comments that come up on Twitter, they will get all the information, which you do share out there, but it's all the little bits that we all cluster together and give you. They'll take that and they'll find every which way to take you out. And that's all I'm saying. I'm just warning you, be very careful, because even judiciary doesn't want to take this, which is really.
But they will also do that in the court. And that's how I'll lose everything, because they will do exactly that. And that is exactly what they did in the first round.
But
They
we
threw
want
up
to
a whole
get
lot of
them.
cases to me. Yeah. So we be careful. Yes, she's right.
Yes.
I agree. I don't
Yes.
disagree. She's right. We have to be really careful and we have to be very hands-on, and we can't trust anyone. And she's right. And this is true because I put in 2 cases before this case, and miraculously, my case, the essence of my case, S28 had never been used in 30 years. We know what S28 is, but some people don't, but too bad. Not going to explain it, but S28 has never been used in 30 years since the inception of the 1990. It has never, ever been used. And I put in my case in December, and my case was turned down. And in January, the Yardley case was put through using S28 for the first time in 30 years, trying to attach the United Nations onto S28. So Maxine is absolutely correct. They
Yes.
take my information and they attach it onto those
Another
heinous laws.
case.
Yeah,
Yep.
and they manipulate many other cases, and they manipulate it, they use it, they transform it, and but at the same time, we kind of have to take the risk of that because I'm a bit out of my depth. The more that I read, the more cases they are. I won't say that I'm completely out of my depth. I will say that my chances are better if I have legal advice. And so they've got on there that you can, because you know, everybody didn't let me finish with the shiny things. Let me finish. So on the shiny things that we can have, always be careful of shiny things. But on the shiny things, look what they said. On the free legal advice, look what they said. Yeah, on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday mornings between 11 a.m. and 12:30 p.m., I can have an online Zoom meeting with them.
Oh, cool.
From 5:30 to 7 o'clock, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings, I can have a private Zoomie with them.
Oreo Zoomy.
An Oreo Zoom. Well,
Oh, yeah.
Oreo Team Zoomie. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so you see, I can have, that's a shiny thing that I would quite like to have, because even though they're going to get my information, I'm going to get all my questions answered. And even if I don't use them, even if they don't take my case, even if I only do we only do everything on our own, they're going to be able to answer all my questions, and they're going to be able to talk amongst themselves, and I'll be able to organize a once a month session with them.
Yeah. I think that's really good.
Session with them to lead me through all of the legal points. I'm going to be able to say, you know, why? Because I didn't understand about the bundle. It's called the bundle. I remember now. I didn't understand about the bundle. You have to bundle things, and I don't know how to bundle. You'll have to set things and all in that thing that they've said. And Cos, the Supreme Court Judge Cos, has put it as a CLO. We've been listed as a CLO, which means that we can use them. I think that's the sign. But
yeah,
that's the sign when they list it as a CLO. That what was that word that I said? It was the community law Otago. Yeah, and so that is saying that yes, this is a case that we have taken. We've got the case. We'll accept the case, and this is something that you can work with because we're willing to look at this case. We're willing, but we're not willing to look at it with her because she doesn't know how to do things. That's what they're all saying. They've been saying it from the beginning.
Yeah,
they keep listing us. I didn't know what CLO meant, but I know now.
And both judges said to get legal advice. That was their
Yeah,
recommendation.
they kept saying legal advice.
Get some legal advice.
They did. They kept saying that. They have never once said to me, "You don't have a case." Even the Crown Law has never said it to me. They just consistently say to me, we see what you've done, but the way that you've written it is not fit for the court in that way. And when you see the other cases that I show to you that is done with the Solicitor General, they're talking about many things in a specific way that I'm not able to do that, but I'm allowed to express myself in my childlike way. But we need the parents to come in, but then, as Maxine says, we have to be extremely careful because they've been using our case as a catalyst and using it against it. And sometimes the things, I don't think I'll wear this hat anymore because it's not making me beautiful as the other hats. I think the other hats make me look more beautiful.
And remember too, where this, in all our thing, where it sits, where this thing sits in the belly of the whole crux of your whakapapa.
Yep.
Like, I don't see down there. I always see it from above, and that's why I just had to say it. But
it's definitely a caution that we have to take extremely seriously, to be honest, because Maxine's been here from the beginning and probably to certain things, and I will tell you this: we have been burned a number of times. And
yep.
What I've put in has done more damage.
There was a sorry.
Jodie, Diane.
That I sent to Jodie, which was Leighton Smith. He's a broadcaster, and he had an interview with one of the law lecturers, which was David Round, who used to be a lecturer at the university, and he's really much on, like he's old school basically. Just the stuff he talks about, it makes sense. But he said that if he was in the law as a lecturer now in the law school, he would get his door beaten down for the stuff he says. They would just be coming, and he would be, because he's speaking out against things that were not a bit, wish it's getting the free speech shut down kind of thing. And so that's, I can see what Maxine's saying, because if they're being indoctrinated into that system, then there is caution that needs to be undertaken, really.
A great deal of caution. And if we don't want to do, we're going to finish up the video now. So we don't want to do more damage than what we've created, is what we don't want to do. And so we have to be careful, because they do use us. A lot of them have come from political parties, and the political parties are manipulating everybody to get things for their parties when we don't support that party. And that is a very bad thing. And I won't mention names, but there are several political parties that are using us as catalysts to lift up their party, but all the time they're working against us behind the scenes. And we're all of us are being manipulated in ways that we don't even realize. We don't even realize how much we're being manipulated as New Zealand people. And the reason is because you're so far away in the world, and your country is such a peaceful, beautiful country. You do just mosey on. It's cold. You don't feel like going out. You just mosey on, and you have always been reliant that the Queen and everybody was going to take care of things for you. But it's only in the last 50 years that you've suddenly been in the situation where they're not taking care of you, and you have thought that they were, and it's only just come to your attention that they haven't been, and that you've been manipulated in many ways. And other countries, I'm here to tell you, in Thailand, the people in Thailand never stop watching what their governments are doing. They never stop it. They're in the court all the time. Their politicians are going to prison left, right, and centre. They can't get them when they're in the parliament, but as soon as they get out of the parliament and the opposition comes in, the opposition prosecutes all of them, because their people that support them will not support them if they don't do that. But the great thing is, then they become corrupt, and then the people throw that lot out, and they bring in the other lot, and then the other lot prosecutes all of them. They've all had to leave the country. One by one, they leave the country. And the people, but the politicians are learning that the people never, ever take your eye off the ball. You've taken your eye off the ball for a very, very long time. In England, in Scotland, we've all become complacent and taken our eye off the ball. And for the last 50 years, they've been working against us in ways that we have yet to discover. And there's only a few in
They've
the
made us
Oreo.
into a nation of victims, like New Zealanders. Doesn't matter whether you're Māori, Pākehā. That's all you hear is, oh, they've done this. It's just victim talk. No one, yeah, and it's they've made us into a nation of victims. And now, as a victim, you got to stand up and bloody do something. Otherwise,
You
we'll sit
must
down
take
and
control, stop being the victim, take control and start taking care of your country as you were supposed to do. The king didn't give you a country to let other people take care of you. The king gave you a country because you said you want to take care of your country yourself, and you must take care of your country yourself. And part of taking care of your country yourself is keeping your eye on what they're doing in the parliament and making sure that you're fixing it. So stand up, take your power, not in the way that they're telling you either.
Yeah, I think in the last couple of years, it's actually highlighted for a lot of people because of what's happened. And, you know, like the mandates and stuff like that. But then it's been used against them, as you say. The bill is going back because they're getting all the court cases. You've got the teachers, you've got the police, you've got, you know, now there's pensioners that were locked out of the country. Now they're going to be taking a case to the court because they didn't get their pension for the last 6 months. So they're saying, well, hang on a minute, but we couldn't get back into the country to claim our pension because we were locked out of the country. So they've intentionally put through all these cases to use against the people. It's been done intentionally.
But you know who's going to be all entitled to those benefits? Are all the people that were locked out of their country from their job. You can see where it's going. They're going to be asking for compensation for the 6 months or the 1 year that they've got to shove an Anglo person up first.
Yeah.
They'll use a white one for that. They're very particular about who they're using. They'll shove a white person, a Pākehā, up front for that. They'll get that person their pension back pay that they want. And then as soon as that's done, they'll shove all of the immigrants that were locked out of the country, all of them will be going for the compensation. And that's going to be a huge bill. If the pensioners, there's probably only 100 to 200, and we can manage that. But if you add on all the thousands of people that left New Zealand to go back to the country and all the compensation, it's going to be multi-millions of dollars that you're going to have to pay. So we've got to be careful, but I better stop. I'm going to stop this video and we can just have discussions. But this is exactly right. This is what we're talking about in New Zealand. Stand up for your country. Start thinking about your country and stop thinking about your little square of land and your little family. You've got to start thinking as a country now.
Yeah.
Bring the ones in. All of you have got to think, don't think Maori, Pākehā, just only think my country of New Zealand, and I've got to stand up and fight for my country of New Zealand. That's what you want to think of. And what are the best ways to protect my country of New Zealand from all of these things that are going? Now, that's what we're going to do. Save New Zealand. God save the Queen. God save New Zealand. God save Tamati Wakanene and all he did for us for the years of all the years that he worked for us to get these protections in place for us. God save the Germanic communities that built New Zealand, built the courts and put in all these protections for us. These are the people we need to be thanking and bringing to prominence and save our country and work as a country. And that's, I'm going to stop the video.
Amen.
Now for the camera.